yesterday, we made this. This is our success criteria for informative or nonfiction writing, and it's a checklist. A checklist is a tool to be used, and like any other tool, it's only really as good as how you use it. So today, I'm going to show you how to use this checklist that we worked so hard to generate together to make sure that your writing meets as many of the criteria on the checklist as possible. One way that we do this is by looking at a piece of our writing using each of the aspects on the list. Tanner has been very generous to volunteer his writing to be looked at together as a group. So using this checklist, I'm actually going to read my writing as many times as I have items on my list. If I have 10 items on my list, I'm reading my writing 10 different times. And each time I read my writing, I'm looking for one thing out of that list. I can only check that thing off after I've read through with that part in mind and check that I have everything in place. So the first thing on my list, successful informative or nonfiction writing uses conventions like spelling and grammar. It's really hard to see the check boxes, but there's one here. The first item is sentences begin with a capital letter and end with punctuation. That is all I'm going to look for in my first read through. So I'm going to head over to my writing, Tanner's writing, really. And I'm going to start by reading, looking for sentences, all starting with a capital letter and ending with a period. I see a capital letter here. That's my first check. We use light in different ways. Hey, I'm missing a period right here. So I already know I have something to work on. I can't check this box just yet. Now, if this was my writing, I would just go ahead and add the period and then check the box. But because it's not, just going to mention it, and Tanner's going to work on his own later. I'll keep going. Rest of my sentences, same thing in mind. Capital letter at the beginning. For we use light to see everything in the world. Period. Great. That one meets the criteria. Next sentence, capital letter. We use light to grow plants, fruits, and vegetables. Period. That one meets the criteria. We need the sun to make Earth warm, but if we didn't have a sun, Earth would be frozen. Period and capital. That one meets the criteria. Next sentence, I see a capital, I see a period, I see a capital and a period, and I see a capital and a period. So I'm almost there with this first criteria. Adding one little period will meet the criteria, and I'll be able to check that box. So imagine that I did add that period. Only then will I check the box. Looking for the second one here, spell check. Now, this is something that I'm going to ask each of you to do on your own when you get to your writing. In Google Docs, let's see if I have it here. I don't think I can go through that tool from this screen, but you'll know from the red underline or the blue underline if something's not quite right. But sometimes spell check doesn't catch everything. There's a word on this page that isn't caught or underlined by spell check. So your job now, when you get to your own writing, is to identify words that you've written that maybe didn't get corrected by spell check, or that spell check didn't give you the suggestion that you're looking for. It suggested a word that you're like, well, that's not what I meant at all. And now I kind of don't know what to do. At that point, let's imagine that it was this word different. You'll identify that for yourself, highlight it in a color, and then move on. You're going to ask me about the highlighted words that you have personally identified. Hey, monsieur, I wrote this. Spell check didn't give me what I thought I wanted, but it still doesn't quite look right to me. Can you help me with this spelling? Okay, that is your job in spell check. So when you've done that, you can check your spell check box. Sentences continue on the same line. I'll read through again and look for that. Right away, I see that each sentence begins on a new line. So I'm not ready to check this box. I have some editing to do. Let's go through the next criteria together. I want you to tell me if all the sentences meet this criteria: spaces between words and after punctuation. Do you notice spaces between words in the first sentence? Second?
Yes.
Third, there's a bit of punctuation here, a comma, and I see after that has a space as well. Okay, and right now every sentence is on a new line, so when Tanner moves his sentences around, and one way to do that is by clicking your cursor at the beginning of the sentence. Then pressing the backspace button, this is going to move me up one line, and then a second line will bring me up to this space here. I'm going to have to make sure that I have a period and a space to move that sentence up and have a space after my punctuation. I would do the same thing on my next sentence. Click at the beginning, press the backspace button. That will remove this extra line. Once all my sentences continue on the same line, I can check that box, but not until then. Oh, and then spaces between words and after punctuation. When that's all in place, I can check the box. Now it's your turn to help me and to help Tanner with this checklist and this writing. We're going to look at the next part that has sentence fluency. The first box being varied or different beginnings to sentences. So I just want you to read through Tanner's work and tell me with a vote with your thumbs up or your thumbs down if he's ready to check the box or if there's more work to be done. Better? I see a couple of thumbs. I see a couple of eyes not reading. Just going to give another moment. Hudson, you have your thumb down. Can you tell me why? Just a reminder, we're talking about different beginnings to the sentences. So what did you notice in the writing that made you put your thumb down? So a lot of sentences, because these are lined up, we can really see this very clearly, that he's got we once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times. We use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We use light 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there is some work to be done to vary up sentences so that Tanner can establish his sentence fluency in that regard. Next here, we have a variety of sentence lengths. Now, this again, Tanner has a great example where we can really see clearly, because they're all lined up on one line to the next. Have a look at the different lengths of sentences in Tanner's work and show me with your thumb if you think he meets the criteria of having a variety of sentence lengths, or if variety means different. What do you think? I see almost all the thumbs that are in the air are pointing up, and I have to agree with you. If we just look at where these periods line up, there's only one sentence that's this long. There's only one sentence that's this long. Maybe these two are very similar, but then he's got one that spans over 2 whole lines. He also has one that's really short. Tanner has a great variety of sentences in here. That means he's ready to check that box. Next, he'll go on. We'll check accurate information on another day. I'll replay the video for you, and you guys can double check what you have and make sure that you hear it. Next, he'll go on to using paragraphs effectively. The first sentence is the topic sentence. Main idea is in the first sentence. Let's have a look. We use light in different ways is the first sentence on his page. Does that sound like a topic sentence to you? Based on the other writing that's in there? Yeah, I agree. So that looks like, to me, like Tanner's ready to check that box. Pardon? So you've already taken out information that didn't have to do with the topic sentence, which brings me to the next part. Group of sentences that are about the same idea or topic. Let's read through his sentences, and you tell me with your thumb whether or not he's ready to check that box or if there's more work to be done. We use light in different ways. That's his topic sentence. We use light to see everything in the world. Does that have to do with his topic sentence? We use light to grow plants, fruits, and vegetables. Does that have to do with it? We need the sun to make Earth warm, but if we didn't have a sun, Earth would be frozen. Tell me more.
I don't know if we are talking about light, but it's like sun is basically kind of light.
So what is it about the sun that helps to make Earth warm, Tanner? What are you thinking?
If we had like a sun, then the Earth would stay in its shape. If we didn't have a sun, it would probably be like all blue and frozen.
So when you have this idea here, we need the sun to make Earth warm. What coming from the sun makes Earth warm? Which travels with light, right? Sunlight. So maybe that sentence could be edited a little bit to make sure that we have explicitly mentioned the light from the sun. Let's go to the next one. We use light in different types of ways. Okay, it does have to do with that. What do you notice about that sentence? It's pretty much another topic sentence. So maybe that one doesn't have to be included in his final product. I love light for everything. Does that have to do with it? Not quite, really. So he's not ready to check this box just yet. But just a little bit of work, and he will be able to. And the great thing about this checklist, which you're all about to receive, is once you've read through your work this many times, looking for all these aspects and all these criteria, it leaves you with a very clear roadmap of what you have to do next. We're currently missing a check mark in sentences continue on the same line. Then we'll make sure that there are spaces between words and after punctuation. Those two things need to be done. Beginnings of sentences need to be changed here. That we'll do another day. There's some sentences that are off topic. That will bleed into this one nicely. And then he's going to check for indented first line of the paragraph once his writing looks like a paragraph. So, are you all ready to start editing using your checklist, your writing about light? Awesome. Let's get started.